What is going on? Happy Monday, diehards, gamblers, degenerates. How's everybody doing? It's a pay-per-view fight week, baby. UFC 287. We're going big time. I am so pumped. We're coming off a break week. We got a little gap here between our UFC cards. We had some other stuff going on last week. The return of Bellator and PFL. I'm coming off a baby loss in both events. Unfortunately, I tried to fade Cat Zingano at a big old plus number, and frankly, I feel like I should have cashed that ticket, but you guys know how this game goes. Sometimes a good bet doesn't cash. I feel like that one was a good one, so I'm not too sad about it. But at any rate, we're going to get right back on the horse, right back on track this week. How is everybody doing? We got the Grateful Dude in the chat. We got Dream Mike Harvey, Handicap UFC. We've got, I don't know, how do you pronounce that? Ingo? I think that's my closest shot, Ingo. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. Mushroom, the man himself, always in every single show's chat. You love to see it. What's up, my man? Dixon, everybody, JSG, Bufo on the beat. Everybody, this is Pub Sports Radio. The show is brought to you, Lines powered by Superbook Sports. Thank you for joining with me. And I don't want to suck this thing out any further, drag it along any further. I got a big time guest for you this week. A man at this stage of the game really should need no introduction. Been lighting the MMA world, gambling world specifically, on fire. None other than Narco Cop MMA. Narco, how you doing, buddy? Oh, you muted yourself, man.
Sorry about that. Thanks for having me. Thank you for the great introduction. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to breaking down this UFC 287 card. Hopefully we cash tickets. It's been a great year so far. Over 60 units for me already, up 60 units this year. Came off plus 16 units for PFL and Bellator. So looking to keep it rolling, man.
That's what's up, man. I was going to ask you, I don't need to ask you how you did this past weekend in PFL and Bellator, but for the sake of the people, maybe the YouTubers who aren't on Twitter and stuff like that, I was going to ask you how you did, but absolutely crushing it, dude. You guys have been unreal on a roll this year.
Yeah, it's been incredible, man. Incredible year. Great last year. I mean, I'm basically last year almost 100 units in 2022. And 60 units so far, 3 months in. I mean, it's incredible. I didn't expect this, but, I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to work hard, keep it rolling. And hopefully, I'm not even looking to go crazy. If I end the year like last year, I'm very, very happy. If it's better, all the more merrier.
I was going to say, man, if the year ended right now, 60 units is it's a pretty solid one already. So hopefully you can run it even at least. And the way you guys are going, I expect you to probably do even better. So thank you for breaking your back to get the tape study done by Monday so we can do the show. I don't want to keep everybody waiting, man. We've got 13 fights to get through here on this card. So everybody do us a favor. Hit the like button, subscribe to Pub Sports if you haven't already. And if you have not checked out my guy Narco, make sure you check out his podcast, subscribe to him as well on YouTube and on the socials. But your first fight of the evening is none other than my girl, Sam Hughes, making her return to the cage here, taking on, I believe it's Jaqueline Amorim. I'm sure I'm messing that last name up just a little bit here. UFC debutante, coming in here as a big minus 220 favorite. My girl Sam is a decent sized underdog here in this spot. Now, you guys know I make the sexy tiles for you so the podcast looks all crisp and clean. These lines move. So Jaqueline is already a minus 245. Sam has now crossed that 2-1 number. She's a plus 205 underdog. So a slight move here on the favorite already to kick off the week. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Sam Hughes. I just love the toughness of this chick, the grit, the fact that she will take everything you've got to offer and Homer Simpson her way back into a fight. She usually kind of wins and breaks opponents based off of her cardio and relentless forward pressure. But we saw in her last fight, Narco, that her wrestling could use a little bit of work. I thought she was going to be okay with her get-up game. That last fight, I thought she was going to be able to pull off the upset and pull that fight off, but she couldn't quite defend the takedowns, and that is a little concerning coming into this fight with Jaqueline. 6-0, undefeated, nasty grappling, man. We're talking first round killer. She basically takes everybody down and submits everybody in the very first round. You look at some of her regional tape, and she attacks the worst position. Any of my fellow grapplers out there know the absolute nut worst position in BJJ is bottom knee on belly. When someone on top of you digs that knee right into your gut and leaves you no option but to turn into an armbar, it's the worst feeling in the world. And she loves that position. I mean, basically, for my girl Sam to win this fight, she's got to keep it standing. I don't see any way she gets taken down and survives, frankly, Narco. I don't like laying chalk on UFC debutantes, and I want to run to the bank with my girl Sam Hughes. I'm very much emotionally invested in this fight. Talk to me about what you've seen, and if you're with me here thinking it's probably favorite from a pick perspective.
Yeah, so honestly, I don't think it's favorite from a pick perspective, just because I do believe that, you know, she has a knockout 10 seconds into the fight, which doesn't really tell me too much about her striking. I think her striking is okay at best. But there's, I mean, do people not have a lot of question marks about this girl? Like, she's never been to the second round, right? We have no idea what this girl's cardio is like. We have no idea how she's going to react to being punched in the face. Like, this girl's in these fights, she's not even getting touched. Like, the only fight I saw her kind of get touched was that Loveth Young for a little bit. And then she shot for an immediate takedown, got the fight to the ground, and then got the knee bar. And outside of that, like, this girl's not getting touched. She's getting these girls to the ground. And then, like you said, she's a world-class grappler. I mean, really, really good grappling. Very, very high level. And then you got Sam Hughes, where she got taken down 5 times by Pereira Rodriguez, who, in my opinion, just looks a bit stronger than Amorim. But
a little tank.
But she doesn't have the BJJ credentials, right? The other thing is that I do like from Sam Hughes, her get-up game is good, man. Like, she doesn't get grounded for long. Pereira Rodriguez had her down 5 times. I think she only controlled her for like a little over a minute. Like, she doesn't get controlled. Even against all these other girls, like, none of them control her on the ground. She immediately works to get back up. Obviously, she has to be careful if she gets grounded here, how she works her way back up, because Amorim is really, really good with submissions. So with that being said, do I want to lay minus 250 on a chick that I have question marks about cardio, about being punched in the face, about grittiness and toughness? I have no idea what this girl is going to look like later in the fight, right? I don't want to lay this 250 with all these question marks. Is she good on the ground? Yes, she's great on the ground. But also, we have to look at the competition, right? We have to take into account who she's like rolling over, right? And honestly, the competition is not very good. You know, the last chick, Ashley Nichols, Muay Thai girl, okay, she armor. Loveth Young, another striker. And then when you look at the other girls, just not very, very good competition at all. I tend to lean dog here, man, at this price, you know, plus 220. As this fight goes on, and if Hughes is able to survive early, I think this is a fight for her to win later in this fight. So at this point, I don't have a play, but I'm hoping people keep jumping on Amorim and maybe giving me like a plus 250.
I like it. I love hearing that, man. I was gonna say that you know how I like to do, man. I kind of tee it up. I let my guests take over and do their breakdown, and I save just like a little nugget to kind of come back around and bookend it, close it up before we move on to the next one. The only thing I do want to say about my girl Sam Hughes is that she is working out at Fortis MMA. You know, we know a camp or two she moved out there full time. I love that coaching staff. I love the game planning that they bring to the table. I think Sam is going to be getting exponentially better the longer she stays there. And in an interview, I got to shout out my guys, JHK and James Lynch, for always getting on the mic and interviewing these fighters for us. She was talking about how the focus the last two camps has essentially been that takedown defense. They recognized it was a problem. She wasn't quite ready in her last fight against Pereira Rodriguez. Coming into this fight, obviously, they know the girl's a grappler too. And Sam basically said that she's at the point now where she doesn't get taken down. And she takes offense in training if she gets taken down. So that's kind of the one thing here that I'm going, I think this is a live bet spot, man. I would love to back my girl Sam Hughes pre-flop. I'm a little scared of this chick in round one, but I think if Sam survives round one, the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Sam. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see round three Sam pop up again.
I do want to add one more thing that's I think when I looked at this fight is I go back to a girl that kind of compares to her is Luana Pinheiro. She's a black belt BJJ. She's a black belt in judo. But the difference between Pinheiro and Amorim is Pinheiro is so much more dangerous on the feet. Mm-hmm. And she has bad cardio. That's the thing with Pinheiro. She doesn't have very good cardio. And Sam Hughes kind of snuck in there in the third round and won that third round.
I thought she was going to take it back, man.
Yeah, but Pinheiro is like a lot better on the feet, in my opinion. So we'll see. I kind of favor Hughes here, to be honest.
I like it. I do agree that I feel like this line is too wide. That's the one thing is that I'm like, I think I would still have to favor Amorim just based off what we've seen so far. But if anything, it's dog or pass from a betting perspective. I'm going to tentatively pick Amorim to win the fight, but I will tell you all my love for Sam Hughes. I am absolutely rooting my ass off and cheering for Sam Page to pull the upset. And you're not allowed to bet with your heart, but if you see me put any of my hard-earned dollars on Sam Page, you guys know, tail with caution at your own risk if you decide to run with me, because I want every fiber of my being for Sam to prove the doubters wrong and turn into a monster here in the UFC. All right, we will move it right along, everybody. We got a lot of good stuff to get to. Your next fight up is Steve Garcia taking on Shayilan Nuerdanbieke. And this one gets real interesting because Shayilan, Narco, I've had some things to say about Shayilan. You know, the Derek Minner fight, that's going to be a big topic of discussion on, you know, MMA betting podcast this week. Everyone knows what happened. You know, the whole James Krause situation, it's a big deal. Shayilan was the beneficiary of that whole situation. And here he is as a big favorite yet again in this spot. And frankly, I'm not convinced he's all that good. I mean, he's got a ton of experience. He's a human fire hydrant, so he's strong as shit. He's got great offensive wrestling. He does bite down on the mouthpiece and swing those big, powerful hooks. He's got that classic wrestle boxer thing going on with the knockout power to go with it. But he's got 6 losses by submission. I mean, he's not a guy he doesn't seem to be careful enough when he's in people's guards. We've seen him get deep in arm bars and he just kind of muscles his way out of it. I actually thought Minner was going to be live to sub this guy in round 1 before we found out about the injury. I had the under in that fight, thinking one or the other was going to die there early. Worked out better than I expected. But Steve Garcia, 13-5, training at Jackson Wink. This guy, I mean, he's just a pressure cooker. He gets hurt in every single fight. He wobbles, he does the stank leg, and then he punches his way back in if he can. The Ontiveros fight was a perfect example of that, where he got dropped, I think, twice, but he got wobbled like 4 times in the first round and then still came back to win that fight. I mean, this guy throws absolute fastballs. And my guy, Chase Hooper, our favorite curly-headed fuck, he is known for all of his durability. And this guy had him practically out on the feet, like folded him over with bombs. He hits so hard. And he's actually got 100% takedown defense so far in the UFC. Low level of competition, small sample size, but it bears being mentioned. And he actually has decent offensive wrestling himself. Like if he gets hurt, we've seen him shoot double legs and get on top of guys. Shayilan is not perfect when it comes to, his defensive wrestling. He's got a 40% takedown defense rating. I mean, if you guys haven't figured it out just yet, I think we've got an extremely live dog on our hands here, Narco. I actually think that Shayilan might be getting a little too much shine from his previous win, and Steve Garcia at plus 180 is super interesting to me. I also kind of like maybe another under. I feel like one of these guys can kill the other one in this fight too. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with almost everything you said. Steve Garcia hits pretty hard. His straight left hand is there and it's cracking. I mean, he throws with everything. I was listening to his interview. He's like, I already know what he's going to do. He's going to try to come in and wrestle me. But, I'm going to throw my hands. I want to get him out of there. The guy just sounds like a mean guy. And his nickname is Mean Machine. So go figure. He's just, he fights mad. He gets clipped a lot on the feet, but he's tough. I mean, yeah, he got dropped against Ontiveros, but one of them was like an axe kick that landed really weird. And then he got
only
caught.
Kick to ever land in the UFC.
Yeah, and then he got caught with it when he's trying to throw a big left hand by Ontiveros and that's, the Ontiveros is a monster at 55 and he's really big. And he catches him and he hurts him there and then he decides to shoot. The thing that I like about Steve Garcia is I think he's resilient. I think he is very nasty, man, especially when he's on top of you. I mean, you saw what he did to Ontiveros on top. He absolutely murdered that guy. And I think the referee basically stopped it because he felt bad for Ontiveros. I mean, he was getting killed with elbows. So, in this fight, Shayilan, I do think he's going to ground. I know he has 100% takedown defense, but he just hasn't really faced these type of wrestlers. Like Shayilan's a powerful, short, stocky wrestler, man. You're not going to stop all of his takedowns. I do think he's going to ground this fight, but also when you watch Shayilan, like control, doesn't have very good control. He got reversed a couple of times against TJ Brown. He puts himself in submissions almost all the damn time, which is not a good look. And to be honest, the one thing I noticed with Steve Garcia is he does throw submissions off his back. He's got a triangle choke from bottom. He throws arm bars. He has pretty long limbs. So Shayilan does have to be careful, even though he takes him down. But Steve Garcia is the type of guy that's probably going to try to work back up. He's not going to just sit and lay there. It's either throwing up submissions or working his way back up. And then on the feet, like I think both guys can get. I do think Shayilan throws with power, but he's extremely sloppy. They're like overhand, like very, very sloppy punches. And it's not to say that Steve Garcia isn't sloppy because he tends to get sloppy too. I just think he throws the more straighter shots, which matters on the feet. When you're throwing looping punches and the other guy's throwing straight punches, his are probably going to land first. So kind of agree with you on the under, but the scary part is like having Shayilan, like both guys seem durable. And having Shayilan like land a takedown, lay on top, where the clock kind of like rolls is what I'm afraid of. So with that being said, it's dog or pass for me here at this point. I'm not laying this type of price with Shayilan at minus 225. I think this guy is more of a guy that I want to back as a dog or like even money where against guys that don't have very good takedown defense. So with that being said, I'm dog or pass here, so I'll be leaning Steve Garcia, but I don't have a bet currently.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of in the exact same boat, and I'm glad you mentioned the offense from his back because I was going to bring up the Luis Pena fight. I don't know if you got a chance to run it quite so far back to catch that fight, but man, he never got taken down in that fight. Luis Pena took his back every single time. It was always in like a weird transition or a weird scramble. Pena threw in the body triangle and jumped on his back. And that's how it got on the ground every time. And in fact, Garcia is the one that took Luis Pena down a couple times and got reversed or rolled. So his takedown defense totally checks out. But at the end of that fight, he finally realized, shit, I'm not going to get to strike with this guy. He got him deep in a triangle. It was a really tight triangle that he threw up and had him in there. I actually think, if we're going to like pull the tinfoil cap early out this week, Narco, I think that there's a chance Garcia submits Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, whether it be like the club and sub because he hurts him and he panics and shoots a takedown and leaves his neck out there, or even if he just gets grounded again for 10 minutes and realizes, well, I got to do something from my back. I think this kid can catch him in a sub. I also think he's obviously live for the knockout. Every time Shayilan seems to get finished at the higher level, loses at the higher level, almost seems like it's that finish loss, and TJ Brown had him in a bunch of bad positions. I'm leaning dog or pass. I'm leaning with Garcia inside the distance, and depending on a number, I may be sprinkling that sub prop.
6 losses by sub. So
6. Shout out my guy. I'm just Drew. What's going on, buddy? Thank you very much for hanging out. Boof on the beat likes the sub prop call. Breaking out the tinfoil cap early this week. Let's go. Let's go, baby. 131 live viewers. Thank you all for hanging out here on a Monday evening. Let's get into it. Next up, we got Trey Ogden taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. And this is a fight that kind of got thrown together last minute here. We talked about Trey Ogden, I want to say 2 weeks ago when we broke down his fight. However, there was a weight cutting type of issue. They weren't quite able to make it to the cage. And here we go. They're going to throw these guys in here together. Bahamondes was also, I believe he had an opponent pull out as well. So they're just tossing these guys into the cage together. I love it. I love the last second matchmaking. Let's run it. Ogden is a guy that, and Narco, I fully admitted in my last breakdown, I don't know what to make of this guy yet. Like, dropped a split decision to the Monkey King back when we all thought the Monkey King was garbage. Now we know, he's a future champion in the weight class. But then he got right against Zellhuber in the weirdest fight we've ever seen, where Zellhuber looked like a shell of himself. And I said I don't know whether I should be crediting Trey Ogden with the high-level game plan or if Zellhuber had a bad night. I really don't know. So I'm kind of struggling looking at this fight going, well, Bahamondes is a little, Zellhuber-esque. He could maybe, present some of the same concerns. He's got quick level changes, a strong body lock. He climbs on the back really well. Seems to kind of shut his opponents down with feints on the feet. He's never been KO'd, though. Really tough and durable. 3 losses by sub, though. The one thing for me with Ogden is he's extremely hittable, and that's one thing you don't want to be when you're coming up against Ignacio Bahamondes. We haven't seen this kid in a year. Time flies. I feel like we saw him not too long ago. It's been a full calendar year, and he's just 25 years old, Narco. This kid is going to be making massive leaps and bounds, improvements in this time off. Crazy explosive, very creative striking. You guys know the intro, that spinning heel kick. That's our boy Ignacio Bahamondes. He's got a strong sprawl game, 95% takedown defense, and honestly, he had a really sneaky guillotine that he attacked on Roberts in that last fight right before he landed the spinning heel kick. I think Bahamondes to the moon, man. I love this kid. I expect him to just be getting better. I think he's going to do big, big things. I like him over Trey Ogden here in this spot, but looking at the line, it's kind of tough with this favorite line, young kid, unknown quantity, minus 340. I don't know. I guess I'll say he's a parlay piece. I don't think I want to question Ignacio Bahamondes here at this stage of his career, man. Do you have any arguments to make for the dog at all? Or are you with me here on the favorite?
So who do I think wins? Probably Bahamondes, but minus 340 Bahamondes. I mean,
big number.
Think about how this guy fights, right? Like, he throws a lot of volume. He gets hit a lot. He bleeds a lot, which is not good optics. And for me, I feel like he kind of fights close, man. And you don't want to lay minus 340 with a guy that kind of fights close against most of his opposition. The one thing I did notice with Bahamondes, and it's really, really good, is this front choke series. He choked out Zhu Rong his last fight. You mentioned he had a really tight choke on Roosevelt Roberts. Even though Trey Ogden's a black belt in BJJ and he's high level, he's been choked out twice by Thomas Gifford, right? Both by guillotine. So it's something to look at. The other thing to look at is I heard an interview with Trey Ogden, and if you hear the story of this guy, Clint, what he went through 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, whenever it was, that fight that got canceled. If you heard what he went through to cut the weight, it is absolutely mind-blowing what he did to make weight. And then once he made weight, he got the phone call from his manager And he said, I thought the manager was calling me to tell me, hey, UFC's waiting for you. Like, you got to come weigh in. And the manager tells him, hey, Torres is in the hospital. And he was like, my heart almost dropped after I did all I did to, to get down to 155. So it was brutal weight cut for him. Then he said he ate himself up to 180 after, because he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to eat. He ate up to 180. Then he got a text message from Mick Maynard telling him, look at your message and tell us if you're good to go. And he said, I didn't even look at it. I ate, and then I weighed myself. I was 180 pounds. The next morning, I looked at the message, and they wanted me to fight Bahamondes, and I said yes. So it's like, now he has to go through another weight cut, but it's at 160 now, which it kind of helps. It's a catch weight. So he's still got to cut 20 pounds. But the thing I like with Trey Ogden is that he is extremely smart when it comes to game planning. He watches a lot of tape. You listen to interview. And he said in this tape, he said, I'm going to wrestle my ass off in this fight. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go forward, wrestle. And I'm going to try to make this guy defend, because he lauded about how good of a striker Bahamondes was. But he also said that Bahamondes is not a one-punch KO type of guy, which he isn't. He doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. A lot of his knockouts are attritionally or head kicks, right? So minus 340 is a little mind-boggling here. I think Trey Ogden fights very smart. He's pretty durable. Bahamondes is very durable. The over 2.5 is what I like here. I already have a play at plus money. I didn't understand that at all. I think both guys are very durable. Outside of like a head kick or something, I don't see Bahamondes knocking this guy out. So with that being said, I'm also kind of leaning dog again here, man. Like, Slime is getting ridiculous. Plus 275. Trey Ogden, we just saw a similar matchup. Like you said, Zellhuber is very, very similar. The only difference is Bahamondes is has more experience, and he's going to throw a lot of volume. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. But Trey Ogden, I think, is going to wrestle here. And if he doesn't get choked out, I think he's going to land a takedown or two here. So I think this fight is going to be closer than what this line indicates, to be honest.
I think that's fair. And like I said, of my own admission, I don't have a good read on Trey Ogden. I want to see more of him before I kind of decide and plant my flag. I'm super high on Bahamondes, but that's a very casual take. Everybody's high on Bahamondes. So I would be looking at, I kind of like what you said. The over seems to be in play definitely here, because Ogden, if nothing else, has shown to be pretty durable. It's that submission that's really been the big issue. And I'm not sure that Bahamondes is necessarily the guy to get it done when, like, Leave It couldn't, for instance. Maybe there's a club and sub guillotine to be had in there. So we'll see what the number looks like when it comes out. I'm picking Bahamondes. I don't think I'm going to be laying the chalk either, man. I don't think I'm going to go anywhere with this one from a betting perspective. All right, everybody. Next up, we are going to talk about Cynthia Calvillo taking on Godinez. We got Cynthia Calvillo, a plus 225 underdog. Your favorite Godinez minus 265. And believe it or not, folks, I got bets this week. The last couple of shows, I've just been like, I don't know. I'll put my card together, find it on socials. No. I got plays. I got bets already locked in, ready to go this week. I'm going to be decisive here. Narco, I'm fading the shit out of Cynthia Calvillo. So I am going to tell you my gambling mentor, Jimmy the Bag. He does shows right here on Pub Sports Radio. I learned how to gamble and sports bet watching and listening to him. One of the things that he taught me, now he used it specifically when it comes to the NHL. It was a thing that he liked to do in hockey, is when you've got a team who essentially was like cut out from the playoffs. They no longer have anything to fight for. Their older pieces are expecting to be traded or looking to move on. The culture's bad in the locker room. He goes, you step on their throats. You do not let them off the hook, because it takes the books a while to catch up that this is a dead team walking, and you'll get good numbers back to back with them because they should be playing better than they are. You step on their fucking throats. And I loved that idea. I love that concept, and I think it applies well with fighters. If you find somebody who is a fade, or if you find a veteran who seems to be edging their way out, we've seen it time and time again, these fighters that throw the R word around and then they do one or two more fights. They just don't got it anymore, man. And you can make piles fading them. I think that's Cynthia Calvillo. She's a decent boxer. She's got fast hands. She's an okay wrestler. She got back to her wrestling in her last fight and she won a split decision. Props to her for getting back to her wrestling roots. I apologize. She lost a split decision in her last fight to baby returning Nina Nunes. So that's her path to victory. She has not done well. 1 in 6 in her last 7, I think, I'm sorry, the draw against Marina Rodriguez technically. So her strength is wrestling, and she's going up against freaking Godinez. To top it all off, she's trying to drop down a weight class to get that strength advantage back that she used to have. And she's no spring chicken anymore. She's 35 years old, and she went up to 125 because the cuts were getting too bad on her. I think this is that sign. This is that nail in the coffin, Narco. This is her looking for an answer and trying to drop back down to where she feels she's going to have that edge. But the skills have just never developed beyond what they are. She is who she is, and she's hoping she's bigger, stronger now at 115. I think Godinez is going to be strong enough to match her down here. I think she's going to have no problem defending the takedowns. And if you go back and you watch that Angela Hill fight most recently, she had Hill wobbled early in that fight. This is where Lupi is a super strong grappler, and her striking is now catching up to it. She's been a decision machine to this point, but she's got power, man. I went ahead and took a shot on Godinez by knockout at 8-1, Narco. I put a full unit on it. I think that Cynthia Calvillo, first off, we've seen her quit. She's had that that TKO via stool, between rounds after getting beaten up. And I feel like the retirement may not be too far off if she takes 1 or 2 more setbacks. If she eats some of the bombs that Angela Hill was eating from Godinez, I'm not entirely sure she's going to want much more from Lupi. I think this is Lupi's chance to shine. On top of that, Lupi has been working with, super high level training partners. Sarah Kaufman for her wrestling. She works with the champ Grosso. We know how slick and tight her boxing is. Lupi's the better wrestler. She averages 4.45 takedowns per 15 minutes at a 45% accuracy. So I actually think Lupi might be the one taking her opponent down in this fight, not the other way around. I love Lupi here, man. I know I'm maybe, throwing the blinders on and going a little too hard here for a minus 250 in women's MMA. But for me, it's Lupi all day. What about you, Narco?
I agree with you. I've been hearing a lot of love for Calvillo.
Me too.
After I watch the tape and I see the last fight, Nina Nunes, she looks slow, man. Nina Nunes is 37, I believe, at this point. She looked like the much faster girl in the ring. Calvillo boxing does not look good, in my opinion. I think Lupi has the better hands here, to be honest. I did not like what I saw from Calvillo. The only thing I will say I'm a little bit afraid is in the wrestling, I don't know how strong she's going to be here at 115. That's the only thing that scares me, because we've seen Lupi face the girls at 125, like Luana Carolina, and really, really struggle when it comes to taking her down. Now, Luana Carolina is longer, those long limbs. We know how hard it is to take those girls down. So I will give her a pass there, but I'm still a little bit concerned with the wrestling here. Like, it actually might be very close. And if this fight stays standing, I'm perfectly fine with it, to be honest. I favor Godinez on the feet. So with that being said, am I laying, these prices? I don't really like doing it in women's MMA. However, I do like the KO prop that you like. I do like that prop. I looked at it today. I'm interested in that prop because I don't think Calvillo likes getting hit in the face. I do think that she has quitting in her, and I do think Godinez is the tougher girl here between the two. That's another thing. The durability, the toughness, the grit, I highly favor Godinez in that spot. So I don't know where Calvillo is going to have an edge here. I don't see much of an edge. She's going to be a little bit of the bigger girl, but older by 6 years. kind of worn down now. She's lost how many in a row? I think she's lost a couple in a row, hasn't she? Yeah,
Four in a row.
She's on a
Jessica
4
I
fight
being the
losing
only
streak.
win prior to that.
Yeah, and kind of like what you said, maybe step on their throat at this point, and they might be giving Lupita a win here, to be honest. And so, with that being said, I'm not in the business of laying minus 270 in WMMA, but I'm going to look for probably a prop, and the prop I'm looking at right now is the KO prop.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that we line up on that. I am actually, it's rare that I take a minus 200, a minus 250 and straight up lay that price tag. It doesn't happen very often. I might do it here with Lupi, just because I think when this fight gets tough, she's going to be the one that digs deep. I think when they're on the feet and both of them get cracked, she's going to one that bites down and steps forward. Cynthia Calvillo may not even make it to this fight, man. Like, let's see if she beats the scale before we get too excited about this fight, because she had real struggles with her weight and always has. And now she's dropping another 10 pounds at 35 years old. Like, let's see how she looks. But one of my favorite things to do is when people have tough weight cuts is to take them to get finished. Because if your gas tank is compromised and you feel like shit and you can't rehydrate all the way, that leads you to getting cracked in the octagon a whole lot more than if you came in feeling 100%. So I'm kind of sticking that in this cap as well, as that I'm expecting Cynthia Calvillo to have a real tough time on the scale before she gets into the cage on Saturday. So let's go Team Loopy, man. I'm looking forward to this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cynthia either hangs it up or gets her walking papers after this one. All right, everybody, we got 153 live viewers on the show. Thank you again all so much for hanging out with us this evening. Why don't you hit the like button for me? We'd very much appreciate it. Next up, we got Joe Pyfer, baby. Gerald Meerschaert, GM3, the man himself, taking on B. Joe Pyfer. GM3, I mean, Narco, this is maybe one of the best matchups we could have asked for, because Gerald Meerschaert is the hype derailer himself. Gerald Meerschaert is the guy you call when you want to test a prospect. He is the ultimate gatekeeper. He is the ultimate measuring stick. You know, if you beat Gerald Meerschaert, you're pretty damn good. And there have been multiple guys who we thought were the shit who have just fallen short because Gerald Meerschaert was the one to expose them. And Joe Pyfer has all the hype in the world coming off the Contender Series. This is the guy, and the UFC is looking to push him in a hurry. I mean, it's only his second UFC fight, and they're tossing him to Gerald, and he just won a grappling contest with Eric Anders in the offseason. You love to see that. This kid is well-rounded. I mean, I'm all about the Contender Series fade. I think these guys are way overhyped coming in here into the UFC. Time and time again, we see them just get numbers that are ridiculous because it takes time to acclimate to the UFC. I think Joe Pyfer might be the goods. I think this kid is the real deal. And the one thing I've said time and time again, Narco, about our guy Gerald Meerschaert is that he does not see the right hand. You go back and you run his tape, and it's always the right hand. I thought Bruno Silva was going to knock him out. I really was convinced that Bruno Silva was going to be the guy with the power to crack him and put him down. I bet Dustin Stoltzfus against him, and that one looked golden too. The problem for me, Narco, is Gerald Meerschaert hates me. He personally enjoys seeing me light my money on fire. If I bet against Gerald Meerschaert, round 3 submission is a lock. It is the lock of all locks that he is going to nearly die in the first round and then come back and win the fight. So I'm terrified, because especially when you run back Pyfer's tape, he sits on his right hand so well. I mean, that's the shot he put Alan Amedovski down in his last UFC fight. So I'm going, I know this guy's weakness is the right hand. This guy's strength is the right hand. It should be Joe Pyfer by knockout. I'm sure Gerald is going to find a way to kill me. He's going to give the vet lesson to Joe Pyfer and submit him. Okay, Narco. Last time Gerald fought against Bruno Silva, I told you, I picked Bruno to win that fight. I tweeted on Sunday before the podcast, I said, oh my God, I can't believe Gerald Meerschaert just won by submission in the third round. And then I came on the podcast, I broke it down, I told everybody about the tweet, and I went, I'm betting Bruno Silva. What happened? Gerald submits Bruno Silva in the third round. So, like, it's just, you sprinkle round 3 sub on Gerald Meerschaert every time. That's it. It's a standard auto bet. You must do it. But once again, I'm going to pick against him and probably pay for it. What do you think about this one, Narco?
I like Pyfer in this spot, man. Your tape study of this was right on point. That's exactly what I saw. The 1-2 from Pyfer is really, really solid. He has a very, very good 1-2 with a lot of power in his right hand. And when you see Gerald Meerschaert pulling back, trying to avoid these punches, he is literally pulling back with his hands down every single time. And he gets hit sometimes, not very flush. Like Silva hit him, but again, they were not very flush. And Silva throws more overhands, more wild. Pyfer throws more straighter, and I think Pyfer has more power, to be honest. Pyfer has really good power on the feet. I really like his boxing, to be honest. I think it's really good. He works the body well. I don't even think Gerald can get this fight to the ground, to be honest. If Pyfer is not stupid, this fight probably doesn't hit the ground, and it stays standing. And if it stays standing, he's going to knock out Meerschaert. Now, the one thing is, Meerschaert somehow gets these guys, some of these bozos, to get the fight to the ground somehow, one way or another. Either they do it or somehow he entangles them and gets it down. And then from there, it's like fighting for your life to get out of his submissions, right? And it seems like fight after fight, he gets these guys somehow entangled. And once they're entangled, it's like they're in his web. And once you're in his web, it's like you might get caught, you know? So he keeps pulling these round 3 submissions out of his ass time and time again, even a lot of round 2s. So what I'm doing here in this fight personally is I have a money line bet on Pyfer. I really like him in this spot. I think he should be somewhere in the -250 to -275 range. I think people are overestimating how Meerschaert is winning. I mean, he's basically losing and then winning, right? I don't think you can keep that up. You cannot keep that up time and time again. And I do think Pyfer is probably one of the best boxers he's faced. So Murdoch might be right there with him, but Murdoch freaking gassed so bad in that fight. Like, if he doesn't gas that bad, does Meerschaert win that fight? I don't think so, but he gassed absolutely really, really bad in that fight.
I was so big on Murdoch that night.
Yeah, and I don't expect Pyfer, honestly, to gas that bad. Like, he's shown pretty good cardio. I've watched those round 2s in those fights. You know, he's been to decision once, but when you watch those round 2s, he still looks fresh. He still has his power. He's training with good guys over there at Marquez. So I think he's going to get the KO here. In my personal opinion, he gets the knockout here. I have a play on the knockout, but obviously, the one thing you have to do, if you have a lot of money on Pyfer and knockout and stuff like that, you know what I have to do, right, Clint? I have to play round 2, round 3 on Gerald Meerschaert just to cover my ass.
Gotta do it.
Those prices are still really good, plus 750, plus 1,200. I'm all over those because if it's to happen, I think it happens later. I don't think it happens round 1 while Pyfer's fresh. He's going to be a lot stronger. But I do think KO1 is definitely very live for Joe Pyfer.
I agree. I agree very, very much. And I'm terrified because I'm kind of leaning towards putting, a bet in, and it just never seems to go well for me with Gerald Meerschaert. So, we'll see what happens, man. I've been staring at it. Like I told you guys at the top of the show, I've got bets this week. I've been decisive. I've pulled a couple triggers. This is the one that I'm still just staring at. And I'm like, I really should be betting Joe Pyfer right now. And I haven't clicked the send button just yet. So we'll see. I probably get there. Next up, we got big old heavyweight slobber knockers, baby. Unfortunately, rest in peace, the golden matchup of Huggy Bear versus Chase Sherman. That was the one, Narco. I wanted to see it. I need more Huggy Bear in my life. He had to pull from this fight. Karl Williams fills in and immediately finds himself a massive, massive favorite. Now, I can kind of argue this one both ways. I'm like, Karl Williams is a big old sloppy gas bag heavyweight. How could he possibly be this big of a favorite over anybody, much less, Chase Sherman in this spot? 33 years old, 8-1, one fight off the Contender Series against Brzezinski, who hasn't looked right for 6 years. But it's Chase fucking Sherman, man. Like, I can't get behind Chase Sherman ever. I mean, he found a way to beat Jared Vanderaa to everybody's surprise, but he hasn't looked good otherwise. Karl Williams probably can rinse and repeat takedowns. This guy, Chase just gets tired after about 4 minutes in a fight. He's pretty deadly and dangerous early on. He does hit that flow state pretty well. If Chase is in the driver's seat when it comes to striking, he's pretty solid. The leg kicks are good. The hands are fast. The jab is good. The head movement is actually pretty solid. But when you get a guy fighting like Waldo Cortez, a guy with decent boxing, fast hands, who can track you down, I'm surprised that Chase Sherman didn't go to sleep in that fight. He took some big shots from Waldo Cortez. So credit to his toughness. And in this spot, I don't think he has that same threat. Karl Williams is not the striker that guys like Waldo Cortez are, and even probably Jake Collier. But I cannot get behind a bet on Chase Sherman, probably ever, Narco. I just don't think it's good for your health to put money on this guy at the UFC level. It's all going to come down to that gas tank, because Karl Williams is going to get Chase Sherman down early. If Chase Sherman can chip away, if he can hit those leg kicks and slow Karl Williams down, I think he's live in this fight. I think he will be the better striker in this fight. I think the Karl Williams, I think he's going to quit on himself a little bit at that bottom position. I kind of think Karl Williams grinds this one out, but I don't want this number on him. Oh, shoot. Where'd you lose me?
You're back.
I'm back? Okay. Back. Sorry about that, everybody. Karl Williams by decision. That's the prediction. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, what is going on right now? It's minus 500 Karl Williams, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Minus 500. The comeback is plus 385. This guy was just minus 260 against Brzezinski, who is a worse gasser than Sherman, who is worse than Sherman everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
He can't defend a takedown for his life, Brzezinski. Not that Sherman's has great takedown defense, but he has better takedown defense. He trains at, Killcliff with, pretty good guys. The other thing people are underestimating, Karl Williams has taken this on very, very short notice, guys. 1 week. And this guy had hands on his knees against Brzezinski in round 3. Yes, I'm playing Chase Sherman here at plus 375. I'm not I don't think I'm crazy. You have to be nuts to be laying minus 500 with Karl Williams here. This guy is very green. Like you mentioned, Sherman's the better striker. He's got good calf kicks. If he can slow him down, and if he could just make him work a little harder than Brzezinski did to get those takedowns, can you imagine what this guy looks like in round 3? When he was like hands on the hips against Brzezinski, and that was a full fight camp? I don't know, dude. Second of all, this guy shouldn't even be fighting a heavyweight, to be honest. I don't think this guy's a heavyweight, and now he's fighting a pretty big guy in Chase Sherman. Nah, I'm going to bet Chase Sherman. I'm waiting. Maybe people keep betting this guy somehow. I don't know what's going on, but he's plus 385. I'm probably just going to bet it right now, to be honest.
Man, I get it. I will say I completely get it. I didn't like the number at minus 390. There is a certain point where it tips and you got to hold your nose and pull the trigger, and we might be getting close to it, because I didn't realize it was all the way up to minus 500 already. Man, I got to go back, and I'll be honest with you. I need to retape the Romanov fight, because Romanov hit 3 takedowns on Chase Sherman.
He dominated. I mean, they were easy takedowns. It was one takedown after another against the fence, and then he got the armbar. But the
fact that he got up, Narco.
But have you seen Carl Williams, he doesn't put any hooks in. He has
No.
no idea what BJJ is, in my opinion. Like, he had Brecksky easily. He could have had his back so many times with hooks in, and he decided just not to put hooks in. Like, I don't think this guy trains BJJ, to be honest. I don't. There was so many opportunities for him, and he just didn't do it. So if he doesn't do it and he just gets him down, I think Sherman's going to get back up. Like, he's not just going to stay there. So we'll see.
And that's kind of what I was talking about. I need to go back and watch the fight because I want to know about Chase Sherman's get-ups. If you can get up out from under Romanov, I know Romanov's a mat return guy. I know he's like, go ahead, get up, I'll throw you again. That's his whole thing. But if you can still defend intelligently and work your way back up to your feet, build your base, get back up, a short notice newbie grappler who's fought nobody, that might be enough. That legitimately might just be enough.
But Clint, you know what's also like pretty crazy and recency bias? Like, this guy was minus 260 against Brecksky, and now he's minus 500. I mean, okay, he dominated a grappling, but he didn't look that good, in my opinion. Like, he was laying there, he was dead tired, and now he's taking this on 1 week notice, guys.
That 1 week notice is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, especially for a gasser.
Damn it. All right. I might be betting Chase Sherman this weekend, folks. I don't like to say it. Like I mentioned, it's not good for your health. Your butthole will be puckered throughout this entire fight. But I might end up there on Chase Sherman, especially. I'm going to watch. I'm going to wait. Let's see where this number goes. Because if it's going to go higher, we might as well get a better number on it anyway. But, oh, man, here we go. It might be Chase season. Pray for me. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the ladies, everybody. We got Michelle Waterson-Gomez taking on Luana Pinheiro, and I really should have thought ahead. Really should have thought ahead on this one, Narco, because I could have replayed the clip of Luana doing her flop when Randa Marcos caught her with the up kick. It's my personal mission in life, Narco, to make sure people never forget the acting job that this girl put on when Randa Marcos up kicked her. Like, Marcos has never knocked out anybody in her life attempting to do so. There's no way she accidentally knocked you out with an up kick. There's no chance. She's put everything she's got into punches and kicks before and been unsuccessful. There's no way she oopsed and knocked you out. No, this girl was crashing in that Randa Marcos fight. She threw Marcos, who's a big, strong girl, like 27 times in the first round, and she was fading fast. Took her window and got out of there with a DQ win. Man, that's the one where I was really struggling because I ended up betting Randa Marcos. I was like, I shouldn't do it. I know I shouldn't do it, but I really think this one is too wide here. Marcos was turning the tables. Marcos was getting into that fight. But Narco, I think that's the one. You know, with these young prospects, you get one. They make adjustments, they learn, they train, they patch holes, they get better. I think that was our chance to beat Luana Pinheiro. She is stupid athletic, man. She is mean. She has good striking. She is fast. In the fight with Sam Hughes, the speed of her attacks, the difference was insane. Sam Hughes didn't know what to do with her. I thought Sam might be able to gas her out, and start working on her late because Luana does slow down in fights. She does do everything very explosively, and that takes a toll. That there's a tax on doing everything with that kind of explosivity. And she slowed down, but it wasn't enough for Sam to make up the difference. And Michelle Waterson, as much as we all love some karate hottie, she's 37 years old. This is the retirement circuit that they put these fighters on, and they sacrifice them to buff up the young fighters that are coming up. She's 1-4 in her last 5. The one coming by split to poor Angela Hill, who can't win a split to save her soul. And she's coming off getting guillotined by Amanda Lemos. Now, I do want to give credit where it's due. Waterson has been facing the best of the best. Lemos, Rodriguez, Esparza, Joanna. Like, she's been fighting a very, very tough level of competition. So this is a step down. But she's always been small for this weight class. And she plays around the outside and she throws kicks that miss and does essentially nothing for a lot of these fights, which is why a lot of them are very, very close. She's a point fighter now. she's got a decent top game. Her grappling has always been kind of underrated. The one thing I noticed is that she's got a lot of rear naked chokes on her record, Narco. And if Luana goes for that stupid ass head and arm throw, that opens up the back. I could see Michelle Waterson backpacking this girl. I think there's a very clear path for Michelle Waterson to get into a grappling scramble, take the back, maybe even hit that rear naked choke. But if that does not happen, there's going to be a lot of staring, a lot of striking from range and punching air and kiawing. This is going to be a bad fight to watch. I think Luana does enough to get ahead on the scorecards, and I don't think Michelle gets back in it enough to take the win. It'll be a 29-28 for Luana, maybe a split decision prop sprinkle. I don't want anything to do with this one from a betting perspective, man. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. However, I will say the level of opposition that Waterson has faced, I mean, it's very high up there. She took the first round off of Lemos last fight, but then subsequently she got guillotined, got herself caught. I like her wrestling, to be honest. When she actually attempts like takedowns, they're actually pretty good. She's a brown belt in BJJ. She's not like a slouch on the ground at all. For a girl that has a big karate background, she's actually pretty good on the ground. On the other side,
home.
yeah, I mean, on the other side, Pinheiro, I think, is good everywhere. Actually, she's good on the ground as well. She's a black belt. She's a black belt in judo. You could see her throws. She's extremely powerful for this weight class, man. She throws very, very hard and is very, very aggressive, which in turn does not help her cardio. Now, I think the smart way to approach this fight is for Waterson to grapple and kind of get this girl tired. Initiate some grappling, try to get in there, work some of that grappling, make this girl, clinch a little, get those arms tired. And I've seen this girl gas. I mean, against Marco, she gassed pretty bad. Like you said, she did a complete act job. Then in the Hughes fight, she was completely fading in that third round. She lost the third round, and especially the second half of that third round. The thing with Waterson is she has very good distance management. She has very good kicking game. Obviously, that's her thing. I don't know if Pinheiro's going to give her that because Pinheiro likes to rush in. The funniest thing I saw is I went all the way back to Pinheiro's loss to that Pyfer girl. Mm-hmm. And within 2 seconds, she flew across the ring. The girl landed a left hand and Pinheiro dropped. It was the funniest thing ever. I've never seen anything like it. She literally dropped her 2 seconds into the fight because Pinheiro decided to lunge across the ring and she got dropped. But I do think Pinheiro is the better fighter at this point. Waterson's 37. If Pinheiro has some type of gas tank, like, honestly, she should roll here, man. She's just a better fighter at this point in her career. She's more dangerous in the striking, especially. So for me, it's a pass. The one thing I did sprinkle is round 2, round 3 on Waterson because of the gas tank. Waterson's been 5 rounds many times. She has a very good gas tank. And it's a big if she can get this fight to the ground later in this fight, I think she might be live to get something late. So other than that, I got nothing for this fight. I'm not touching it on either money line side. I do favor Pinheiro.
Waterson round 3 submission is gonna have my attention, Narco, just because of what we've seen from Luana and her fading, the way she'll slow down in fights, and how dangerous Waterson can be in a grappling situation. I think she's going to have to stay in this fight, tire her out, wear her down. And like I said, she might be down on the cards. I want to see a number. That's all I'm saying. I want to see a number. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but if there was ever a round 3 sub sprinkle to be had, it's Meerschaert and Gomez Waterson this week.
Well, you don't want to the sub between the sub and the regular round 3. It's 2,800 for round 3, and it's 3,300 for round 3 sub. So I wouldn't even mess with the 500
really
points. Yeah,
man. Yeah, it's not even worth it if they're going to split hairs that way. I was hoping it'd be much, much wider if you got specific there on the method. But I guess it's not often Michelle Waterson knocks anybody out. So that makes a little bit of sense. All right, everybody, we are moving along at a nice, brisk pace for you here this evening. Real quick, bear with me. Let's go ahead and shout out the sponsors of the show. We have got none other than my home right here, Pub Sports Radio. We've got free MMA contests for you every single week. We did a bracket contest for March Madness, so make sure you come over here to Pub Sports Radio, sign up. Like I mentioned before, it is free. There's a weekly cash prize for taking the whole damn thing down. Pick your fighter around your method and go win some free cash. Come hang out with us and play. Next up, Spectation Sports, regional scene MMA. Promo code DieHard if you want a 25% off of your subscription here. They've got awesome shows. Aries FC is coming up here in the next month or so. Showcase MMA. These are where we find these young, hungry prospects. You can see them and bet on them before they get to the big stages. And it's definitely a good resource for MMA bettors. Next up, No House Advantage. A lot like Prize Picks. I know they hate it when I compare them to Prize Picks, but hey, they're not very well known, and that's kind of what they do. They're taking a big focus on mixed martial arts. So if you guys like props, totals on takedowns, significant strikes, overs, unders, and you need another out, use promo code DieHard. You'll get a 100% match on your first $100 deposit, and then you can play some props over there. Last but not least, the Sharp app. These guys have been doing awesome lately, giving out a whole bunch of free picks online, and they've been crushing. They've got models. They got the Sharp Action Report, so you can tail the sharps, you can fade the squares, do all those kinds of things. And of course, they've got videos and articles to help you do all of your high-level betting stuff. Check out the Sharp app. They've got links to their Discord, and that thing is popping as well. Thank you all very much for sitting tight with me through that. This is Pub Sports Radio. We're breaking down UFC 287. I am joined by Narco Cop, the host of the Lambeau Plays podcast. Make sure you guys check him out as well. Subscribe to the show. He's over on YouTube. Him and Tim have been kicking ass this year. I'm having a bounce back year myself, but it's not even close to what Narco and Tim have been doing. So make sure you check these guys out. Narco, my main event is coming up next because Kelvin Gastelum is taking on Chris, the Action Man Curtis. If only Jillian Robertson could have been moved up from last week to this week, all three of my people would be on the same card. I got Sam Hughes, I got Chris Curtis, and next week is Jillian. Lord help me. I'm a man in heaven with all my people here fighting recently. So this has been the battleground for this fight week, Narco. This is the one where it's the real tug of war, sharp versus square. Who are we betting on here? Kelvin Gastelum opens up as the underdog, gets bet all the way to being the favorite. You've got Gianni the Greek out there posting tweets about the respectable syndicate action coming in, moving that early line. And man, I might be square. But if you give me plus money on Chris Curtis, it's damn near an auto bet, Narco. Like it's just what I got to do with this guy. He's got good boxing. He's got one of the best gyms for this weight class on the planet right now. He's got a hook from hell. He roasts people's ribs. He doesn't knock people out with headshots. He destroys your body and takes your will to live over the course of 15 minutes. And that's how he gets you out of the cage. He's getting better, it seems like, making some adjustments. The one thing that we worry about with Chris Curtis, obviously, is the Jack Hermanson fight. If you're going to refuse to engage, if you're going to stick and move, if you're going to put a jab in his face and run around the cage, he will lose a technical scorecard decision that way. But I don't think that's how Kelvin Gastelum fights. I mean, even training over at Fight Ready with the game plans that they come up with, I don't think we're getting stick and move KG, Narco. He's a volume guy. He's a boxer. He throws down in the pocket. Recently, he's been doing a whole lot more with his wrestling. And I think that that's been a decent thing for him to do, except wrestling don't work on Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis has a 100% takedown defense rating in the UFC. You cannot take this man down. So even though Kelvin Gastelum may come in, pin this guy up against the cage, try to slow him down, I worry just a little bit that he might get out-volumed by Kelvin Gastelum. But if you're a willing participant in a fist fight, Chris Curtis is getting my pick. I have no reason to doubt the guy. I've made bank backing him until this point. Why would we stop and not go back to the well? Maybe I'm stepping in the bear trap, Narco. Maybe I'm putting my foot right fucking in the center of that thing and I'll cry about it. Haven't bet it yet because I want to see how high this number will go. Right now, Chris Curtis, I believe, is plus 110. So I don't like necessarily fighting against steam that way, but if you give me plus 120 on Chris Curtis, I'm going to take it. What are you doing here, Narco?
Yeah, I think it's a very close fight, man. This fight's going to be 15 minutes of standing. Chris Curtis, I mean, unbelievable. Like 100% takedown defense. And it's not like we're talking about 10 takedowns. We're talking 30 32 takedown attempts against him. Not even one takedown against this guy. So 0 for 32. He's got immaculate takedown defense. I mean, he does all the things right. You're not going to get this guy down. Gastelum has decent wrestling. It's not good enough to get Chris Curtis down here. So we're talking 15 minutes of standing, right? And I think it's competitive. I think it's volume over moments here in this fight. And moments are going to be Chris Curtis. He's got more power. He's got more of the flashy optics as far as like rocking you or hurting you or hitting your body. But Kevin Gastelum has the volume edge here, and it's not close. That's the concern here with Chris Curtis. Like, he got out-volumed pretty badly against Hermanson, which is, I don't want to say it's a similar style to Gastelum because it's not, in the sense that Hermanson throws a lot more kicks. I would definitely play Gastelum here if I knew he was going to use his kick game a lot, because it's southpaw versus southpaw. So the lead leg is going to be there for Gastelum to kick. Now, I don't know if he's going to kick it. That's the problem. And the one thing with Fight Ready is, and everybody knows that's my favorite gym going right now, is they game plan better than any gym. So I'm pretty sure they're going to tell him, hey, that lead leg is very heavy for Chris Curtis. Kick it, and kick it often. So I don't think they're going to tell him to wrestle, because they just know that Chris Curtis is going to defend all the takedowns. Now, maybe they tell him to cage push a little. Maybe they tell him to kind of take off the steam from Chris Curtis's punches by doing that. That might be part of the game plan. But I just think it's such a close fight that I don't think you should be picking a side here. I don't think there's enough value either way. Kind of hard to gauge how this fight's going to go. Like, as far as not knowing where, I do know where the fight's going to be. It's going to be standing, in my opinion. It's just that it's moments over volume, and how the judges seem to look at this. I think split decision here is probably a good bet. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I have no idea. I haven't played
Looks like
it.
It's plus 450.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this fight goes to decision at a very good clip. What is fight goes? Like, I haven't even looked at the lines here. Yeah, that's not playable. It's minus 200. But I do think this fight goes. And if fight goes at minus 200, split decision plus 450 I think is a good bet.
I got to give the shout out to Captain Quebec, because you beat me to it. That was going to be my roundup for this one. I was going to circle back to Narco and say, how do you feel about a split decision prop? Because I think that's the move here, man. I really do. This is going to be a competitive back and forth, minutes versus moments, exactly like you said. And it's going to be, do you favor the pitter-patter volume, or do you favor the guy who's ripping to the body? And we've seen these judges don't know what the hell they're doing. We're going to get a decision that could very well go either way. I think we can get one guy scoring for the opposite fighter. Let's do it. I think the over, and I think the decision probably makes a whole bunch of sense. The one thing that I'll say is, if you are hunting numbers, Chris Curtis by decision is plus 240, whereas Kelvin Gastelum by decision is plus 140. I just don't think there should be that big of a discrepancy. Like, if it goes all 15, I don't know that he's that big of a favorite to be the one getting the nod. I think overs and maybe even parlaying, like the over 2.5, because I worry a little bit about Kelvin Gastelum's durability, just because of the amount of wars he's been in. Now, to this point in his career, he's had an absolute brick for a head. You cannot finish Kelvin Gastelum. Everybody's tried. It doesn't happen. Eventually, that's got to catch up to you. You know what I mean? Like, the miles on Kelvin Gastelum. Like, Chris Curtis has way more fights. You would think he's got more fight miles on him. He doesn't get hit a lot. And he's usually the one TKOing his opponents. So I think Kelvin Gastelum has absorbed far more damage than Chris Curtis has so far over his career. Taking big power shots from Jared Cannonier. He got dropped twice in that fight. I don't care what the stats say. Like, there's a chance. There's a chance that somebody cracks Kelvin Gastelum sooner than later. And especially Narco, because of the way Chris Curtis goes to the body. You know what I mean? I could see him chipping away and maybe being the guy to get it done. I'm not going to bank on it. You know, I'm rooting for my guy, obviously. I do think this fight goes the full 15 minutes, but if there is a finish, I think it's coming from Chris Curtis, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Gastelum is not much of a finisher, man. He's a point fighter. I mean, he throws decently hard, but Chris Curtis has a great chin, so I don't think that's happening. I mean, Curtis usually the way you get him out of there is to grapple him. That's where he has trouble. Like he has trouble against grapplers, you know, guys that try to cage push him, not get him necessarily down, but cage push him and work him, kind of like Magomed Karamov did to him in PFL. But then you got Ray Cooper who knocked him out. But Ray Cooper, I mean, he's got different power. So
well, and it was the second fight of Chris Curtis's night too. That was back to back with the Magomed fight, right? Like they were like, kid, get back in there.
Yeah, it was back to back, same night. But Ray Cooper hits completely different. So I don't think there's much equity for him to finish Chris Curtis. So I think this fight goes to decision at a really good clip, man.
I agree.
I can understand and I see how Chris Curtis can hurt Gastelum, but his recoverability is unbelievable. Like he gets rocked and he just seems fine like 10 seconds later. Like what the hell happened? It's unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, I think fight goes. I think it's a close fight.
Dude, especially the Cannonier fight. He ate that head kick. I think it was in round 3. He eats a head kick, gets dropped by a hook, and he's fine. Like he just pops right back up, takes a deep breath, and is like, I'm good. Eyes clear, everything.
And we're talking about Cannonier. I mean, the guy has massive power, like in his kicks, in his punches. So if you're surviving those, like, I find it hard to believe that Chris Curtis can get him out of there. And Chris Curtis hits hard. It's just, man, he's got such a crazy chin.
Yep. And I guess the one thing I will mention, again, got to shout out our guys. James Lynch had an interview with Chris Curtis. He's packing on muscle. That's been a focus for him, is he's so small at this weight class. He knows he's undersized, but he doesn't want to cut the weight. He is working on packing more muscle on. So there is a chance he maybe hits a little bit harder. He's going to be cutting weight more in the future than he has been previously. So just something to think about. Not that it necessarily makes a big difference.
I would say the other side is even more undersized.
Yeah.
In Gastelum. I mean, the guy is tiny. He's tiny for 85.
He's always been a 170 pounder. Like, God, if he could make 170, Narco, is he the champion? Like, is KG 170 king?
I don't know if he's a champion, but he's very competitive and up there. You know, like I don't know what's with this guy. He looks like complete shit at 85 too. That's the thing with me, is like, dude, you can't cut that fat. It's fat. You don't have muscle, buddy. Cut that damn fat already.
I think it's Daniel Cormier syndrome. I think it's because how wide he is. Like, if you look at his rib cage, it's like this. You know what I mean?
But how about all the belly fat though? You can get rid of that, baby. Come on. He can easily. I can't. No one can convince me that guy cannot make 170. I mean, he's 5'9" for Christ's sake, and he does not have. He's got no chest. He's got no like shoulders or wide like back or anything, back muscles. Like, this guy is not making 170 because he loves to eat.
Man, he's at fight ready. He just needs to go the other direction. Like, okay, you're not going to make 170. Like, let's go Vitor Belfort on you. Like, let's bulk him up.
Exactly. Turn that fat into muscle at least and stay at 185.
It would be interesting. Real quick, Captain asking, do we know where Kelvin's training for this fight? Yes, it is Fight Ready where he's been training. And you guys know this is the battle of the gyms for me, because Fight Ready is my gym. I absolutely love Fight Ready, but Extreme Couture, them and Fortis, like, those are my 3 spots right now. You know what I mean? I think they're doing good things. I think they've got good coaching staff. So I think the gym question is a wash. Like, they're both going to be very well prepared coming into this fight. So I'm, once again, ride or die with my guy, Chris Curtis, but I think the over is probably the play, and I think split decision is probably the bet. Right, let's move on, everybody. We got the kid himself. I was going to say the man himself, but the kid himself. Raul Rosas Jr. returns to the cage here as a big favorite. The UFC's youngest fighter, signed at 17 years of age. He turned 18, so at least he's a legal adult cage fighting now. He doesn't have to have his parents sign a waiver for him when he steps into the cage. He's taking on C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez. And Narco, I still have so many questions. Like, I think Raul Rosas is special. I think he's the goods. I think he's legit. His strength, I've talked about the difference between like boy strength and man strength. That doesn't seem to matter with Raul Rosas Jr. The way he picked Jay Perrin up and threw him around the octagon, that guy's got premature man strength. I don't think there's an issue with how physically powerful he is. He's a good, strong wrestler. He's one of these new agey kids that's already blending the wrestling with the grappling, so he's got good jiu-jitsu on him. Questions about the striking, we need to see more of that. I'm not convinced about his stand-up right now, but I don't have any reason to believe that it's not at least serviceable at this point. But the UFC is trying to lead him along the right way. They don't want to burn this kid. They understand he's young. They're trying to give him somebody who's, an adequate opponent. He's taking on 25-year-old Christian Rodriguez, who's 1-1 in the UFC since getting out of Dana White's Contender Series. I love Christian Rodriguez, and I actually think he's extremely underrated, just generally speaking. But he left fight ready, Narco. And that's the thing that I was like, this kid at fight ready, whoo, it's like, give me a year. He's going to be a monster. He went back to Rufus Sport. And out of all the gyms that I'm like, I don't want to be on video saying anything mean. Like, I'm not a fan of Rufus Sport these days. I just don't think they're going the right direction. You've got guys like Gerald Meerschaert that left there. You got the Pettis brothers who kind of took a dip off and are now questioning whether or not that's their home gym. Like, it just seems like Rufus Sport is kind of on the downswing. It's a downgrade in my opinion. But I still love this kid. You watch his UFC debut against JSP. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he took that fight on short notice. And he scrambled his balls off against JSP, who I think is one of the best grapplers with the best cardio that this weight class has to offer. So if you can scramble with JSP and you can hang on the ground with a guy that caliber, I think you're more than live against almost anybody in this weight class. Oop, okay, so Narco froze everybody. I don't know if I'm frozen or if Narco's frozen. Before I keep going, I want to make sure. Okay, Narco, I saw you unmute yourself. You're back. All right, it was you. It's not me.
Oh, it was me. Okay, sorry.
I just didn't want to keep talking for another 5 minutes and then have you be like,
no, I heard everything. It was funny. I heard everything. I don't know what was going on, but I could hear you.
Internet issues. Gotta love it. No, okay. So I honestly, I think Christian Rodriguez is being a little bit underrated in this spot. I think he's got excellent scrambles. He's got very opportunistic submissions. He had the back of JSP in round 3, which frankly, folks, everybody's dying in round 3 to JSP, not reversing and taking his back. This kid is going to present problems. And I know a lot of people that were ready to jump on Jay Perrin and did bet Jay Perrin, fading Raul Rosas in his UFC debut. And I was like, no. That ain't the spot. This is the spot. Like, I actually think you might have a live dog here in Christian Rodriguez. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's 7 years older, which I know usually we want the younger guy, but we're talking 18 to 25. That's a good older, in my opinion. And I think he can hang with the cardio, and I think he can hang in the grappling. He might be the better striker. I'm extremely tempted to bet Christian Rodriguez as an underdog on Saturday, Narco. What do you make of this one?
It's not even close in the striking. I mean, Christian Rodriguez, very good striker.
Yeah.
And I love that kid, to be honest. I love everything that I've seen from him so far. But why are they doing this to him? Why are they giving him another grappler similar to Jonathan Pierce that's just relentless with the wrestling? And I feel like,
I do that.
Yeah, at 25
it's like 2 or 3
old,
matchups in a row that are the exact same.
And I think this guy has a lot of promise, and I really like C-Rod, but I'll tell you what I see that on tape that's a big difference between JSP and Rosas, and that's the actual BJJ. I think Rosas is way ahead of Jonathan Pierce there. Jonathan Pierce is more of a control, trying to get your back, trying to get position, trying to smash you on top. But this kid is freaking hunting for submissions, man. I mean, he's trying to get your back. He's trying to choke you out. He's trying to get an arm bar. I mean, you name it. He's trying to get it. And that's what this kid loves to do. He loves to go for submissions. And that's the kind of like the major difference that I saw between Rosas and Pierce. Now, the one other thing that I see the difference is I think Pierce is a lot more physical. He's a lot more, he's a larger guy at 45. He's a massive guy at 45. And we know that C-Rod went up to 45 to fight that. Now they're fighting at 35. The other red flag that I saw from Jonathan Pierce that I really hated seeing was his Joshua Weems fight. He got taken down twice by that guy. I don't like seeing that, man. I do not like seeing that with Joshua Weems taking you down twice. A big red flag for me. And I love, like I said, I love C-Rod. And I was looking to play him in that spot. But I'm very afraid, man. I'm afraid he gets taken down. And to be frank, I'm afraid he gets choked out at some point here. Because Rosas is high level on the ground. He gets reversed. You name it, but the guy keeps going, man. And it's unbelievable the pace he puts on you. And the problem is he tries to put you in bad spots and submissions and shit like that. And the type of defending that he was doing against Jonathan Pierce, I believe, is a little different than the type of defending he's going to have to be doing here. So I don't have a side right now, but if this line blows up, I will tell you, I probably will play C-Rod just based on the number. But at this point, man, I don't have anything. I do think the grappling is going to come into play here, and it's going to favor Rosas. So with that being said, right now, I think Rosas is going to get the W here, but I'm not running to make a bet at minus 230, 240 on this kid.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as much as I don't have a bet yet at this point. And I'm just staring at it, man. It's like C-Rod is calling my name here. Captain saying Rosas by sub. I'm actually kind of looking maybe at the overs. I think this might be the first time where Rosas gets a little bit of resistance. I think C-Rod will be able to survive in some of those scrambles. Even if he doesn't win the fight, maybe he can make it the full 15 minutes. What do you think about a total on this one, Narco?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think Fight Goes is like plus 140. Obviously, they're banking on Rosas finishing for the most part. But the later this fight goes, I do favor C-Rod because I think he has the better cardio. Obviously, this kid shows pretty good cardio, but honestly, in that fight in the Contender Series, where it went to decision against Mando Gutierrez, he was starting to fade a bit. I mean, I know he was looking fine, but he was kind of dominating that fight, yet fading. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This fight is very, very interesting in my opinion. I came out very hesitant on C-Rod after watching Joshua Weems take him down a couple of times.
I can definitely understand that. And I do think that, the big thing for me on that one, though, was it reminded me of like the Will Knight fight where he gave up the stupid like trip takedown. That's kind of what it reminded me of, right? Like he got hit with that foot sweep a couple of times. I think he'll patch that hole. You know what I mean? And I don't know it'll matter because Rosas is more of a pick you up and throw you against the fence type of guy. I'm not sure if it matters quite that much. I want to see these guys size up. I want to see them face off. I still don't have a great image in my head of how big Rosas Jr. is, and I actually think that makes a difference.
I want to say one of the takedowns was a body lock and like pickups and takedown for Weems. He literally body locked him, picked him up, and smashed him on the ground. So, which is what Rosas does a lot of. So,
yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. This one is very confusing. We're talking about an 18-year-old kid. So buyer beware out there. If you're laying chalk on an 18-year-old, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. However, he's an absolute stud. So I don't blame you if that's the side that you're going with. For the sake of the show, I will pick Rosas Jr., I think, to get the win. But I'm eyeballing the dog here in a major way. So my opinion may change over the course of the week. Make sure you guys check out my Friday Undefeated Post Weigh-In show. I forget to plug my own show sometimes, a lot, most of the time. In fact, I never mention it until everybody's already logged off and I'm done with the stream. So I want to tell you guys, I do this show with a guest who is 95% of the time a smarter individual and better than I am. And then I mull on everything for the week. And I come back on Friday and I do the post weigh-in show where I break out the tinfoil cap and I take everything and I make my bets at the end of the week. I like that show a lot. And if you guys listen to this show, you should probably listen to that show. It's rare, but every once in a while I'll come full circle on a spot. And this is one of the ones where I'm like, we'll see how I feel in a couple of days about whether or not I want to bet Christian Rodriguez. So I like that Friday show. All right, next up, Kevin Holland, baby, taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. What a fight, man. There's a lot of questions about this one, Narco. A lot of questions. I did the tape on this fight. And I mean, at this point, we all know Kevin Holland, right? He's the biggest roller coaster in the UFC. Like, he comes in, takes on Thiago Santos, has no business being in that fight whatsoever, earns the moniker Big Mouth, doesn't die in that fight somehow, and then goes on like this murder spree, just taking people out, plays with his food. You can't ever count on him to do anything, but he knocks people's asses out. He taps people out. He's a BJJ black belt. He's slick on the ground. And then finally someone realizes bro can't wrestle. As soon as they realize buddy can't wrestle, it's like, oh, it's all over for Kevin Holland. He can't win a fight to save his life. And they give him the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, where it's like, you've got this massive advantage. We've seen that's the way that everybody beats Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You've been working on your wrestling for 6 months. Go show us what you can do, Kevin Holland. And he says, no. I'm not going to take the takedown. In fact, they fall on the floor multiple times in that fight where he could have just dove on Wonderboy and this fight is over. Lets him back up and proceeds to get his ass beat. Like, it's so hard to trust Kevin Holland. If you put your money on Kevin Holland, you know what you're getting yourself into. We're already masochists for trusting these judges, for betting on guys that, spinning heel kick their opponents in the first round. If you're an MMA gambler, you already love pain. But if you're betting on Kevin Holland, you're the sickest of the sickos. Narco, I've got a 2-unit play on Kevin Holland inside the distance at plus 150. Oh, I couldn't stop myself. I watched this fight, and then I went back and I watched Santiago Ponzinibbio. The dude's an absolute baller, but he's 36 years old. And in his last fight against Alex Morono, he got hurt in every single round against Alex Morono. I mean, we're talking he got dropped in the first round. They wrote it as a slip. So they only gave Alex Morono 1 knockdown. He got knocked down in the first round. He got straight up dropped in the second round. And I mean bad. Like, he was hurt in the second round. In the third round, he does the Kevin Lee stanky leg. I mean, like, he is wobbling around the cage, and Morono doesn't follow up on it, and then ends up getting nuked himself just about 60 seconds later. If you're getting hurt not once, not twice, but thrice by Alex Morono, I think Kevin Holland can do some damage with you with his 2-foot reach advantage. I mean, we've seen Santiago hurt a bunch of times. He's hard to actually get out of there, but he has been knocked out more than once. I really think this is a get-right spot for Kevin Holland. And if you look at anything he's posting on social media, I know you can't trust fighters. I know you can't listen to what they say. But a motivated and focused and angry Kevin Holland, I think, is maybe the one and only time we'll ever be able to count on him not playing with his food. He put a post out, something to the effect of man down, coming up for his next fight. And I'm like, if I get angry Kevin Holland, there's no reason he shouldn't finish Santiago Ponzinibbio in this fight. So I'm holding my nose and I'm taking the plunge. I got plus money. If you're betting Kevin Holland, take him inside the distance because he can submit people just as easily as knocking them out. You're at his mercy there, so don't bet one or the other, folks. Word to the wise. So I've got Kevin Holland inside the distance at plus 150. Narco, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a bet on this fight, but I'm kind of leaning Santiago Ponzinibbio at this point. Just because, like, not very long ago, we're talking a month and a year and 4 months a year and 4 months ago, Sky went to split against Jeff Neal. I mean, Jeff Neal is probably one of the best strikers in the weight class as far as boxing is concerned. And he went tooth and nail with him, man. Very, very close fight. I think he landed a takedown or two in that fight against Jeff Neal. But But what if Santiago Ponzinibbio decides to wrestle here? That's my thing. Like, he can get takedowns, man, and he's shown he can get takedowns before. I think he got, who was it to fight after Pereira, Michel Pereira. He got a takedown there against him. And both those guys, Jeff Neal, Michel Pereira, hit pretty hard. They're very explosive guys. And he was able to take a lot of big shots from Jeff Neal. And Jeff Neal, we know, hits very hard. And then you see the Morono fight. And like you said, like, it's a concern. Like, this guy's getting wobbled all over the place. He's getting dropped in that fight. And now he's 36, 35, 36. Yep. So he's getting there, right? But when you look at this guy's skill, he's got it, man. Like, he's a skilled fighter. He's a good boxer. He's got very good leg kicks, which I think are very important in this fight. I think he can actually tear up that lead leg, that little stick of a leg that Kevin Holland has. So I think that's going to come into play here, man. Ponzinibbio has very nasty calf kicks, and if he can chop at that lead leg of Kevin Holland, I think it's going to give Holland a lot of trouble. The other thing is, I got to the point where I said to myself, Kevin Holland is smart now. He's fighting smart. He's doing everything right. And then Stephen Thompson fight happens, and it's back to the Kevin Holland of old. So can you trust this guy at minus 270? There's absolutely no way I can trust this guy. But the other thing is, he's facing a really skilled fighter in Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio, I don't think, has ever been this big of a dog against anybody in his UFC career. Maybe I'm mistaken. I need to go back, but I don't think he's ever been this big of a dog. And I don't think Kevin Holland is the most skilled fighter he's ever faced. So with that being said, I do think this line's a little too big, man.
Well, you might be right, Narco.
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I don't recall ever him being this big of a dog.
No, the biggest dog he was besides this is plus 185 against Sean Strickland. That's a great point.
Yeah, so a little bit older, and I get it, but like we said, a year and 4 months ago removed against Jeff Neal, I probably would favor Jeff Neal over Kevin Holland. And so that's the thing, man. I think this line's a little too big here, and Ponzinibbio, they're underrating how skilled this guy is. I know he's a bit older. I know he's coming off that, the time, the layoff, he was sick, he was whatever. But the guy is still skilled, and we still see it, Yeah, Morono fight was not the best look. But again, this guy went to split decision against Jeff Neal not very long ago. So I'm leaning his side, to be honest. And then the fight IQ, man. The fight IQ, I can't get over that.
I completely understand and respect not wanting to put your money on Kevin Holland, man. I get it. And that's where I think I avoided that bomb against Wonderboy. I think that's the argument that I made against Wonderboy, was that you just don't trust Kevin Holland with your money. For me, like, I got a plus number on him. I got a plus number on him inside the distance. And I think that's enough for me. On top of that, the Alex Morono fight for Ponzinibbio was only in December. Man, for a guy who's gone through the struggles that he has, for a guy that is not wearing damage the way that he used to, a 4-month turnaround at this stage of his career is a short turnaround. I don't know that that's a great move. And I know you mentioned the takedowns. They might be there. Maybe him and his team are smart enough for him to come out and wrestle here in this spot. But Ponzi also kind of reminds me of the stand and bang, point to the center of the cage type of buddy, that if he goes, honor for honor with Holland, this one could end tragically for him, unfortunately. So I'm going to roll the dice, man. I'm going to take my shot. Like I said, something I mentioned at the beginning of the year, Narco, is last year I got out of hand making bigger bets in sketchy positions, and I've said I'm going to do less of that. I've been back to my 1-unit structure, and look at me. I'm up over 25 units for the year. Like, it's going really well for me, getting back to basics.
You know what I'm doing really well this year is I'm staying off, and I have it written everywhere. Like, bad fight IQ guys, I'm literally not betting them anymore, because this is the problem. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing, right? When they're at their best and they're doing like what they're supposed to do, they're a really good bet. But then when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, it's a freaking terrible bet. So it's like, how do you determine which guy shows up, right?
Yep.
How can we determine it? We don't know. So that's the issue. I'm staying away from those guys in general. I think that's been doing me wonders in general, like staying off these bad fight IQ fighters. And Kevin Holland is the epitome of a bad fight IQ fighter.
Yes. I agree with you on all parts, and I think it's a very good thing to note. I've been doing much of the same. I want to say this is the first one of 2023 where I am knowingly going, I know this guy could just fuck around and screw me in this spot. I know he can do that, and I'm pulling the trigger anyway. I think this is the spot. And again, I think it all comes down to the anger. I think it all comes down to him being too upset with his last performance. Because looking back on it, he's been mocked relentlessly by everybody for making that mistake. He gave away the win. He got injured in a fight. He took a beating and quit on the stool. Like, this is proof of point, Kevin Holland, to me. I think that's what we're going to get. It's a narrative. It's my opinion. It's not necessarily fact. So we'll see how this one goes for me on Saturday. Good luck to everybody snatching on that underdog price tag on Ponzinibbio, because like Narco said, this is the biggest dog price you've ever had on who is a very quality fighter in his entire career. So I don't blame you whatsoever at taking a dog shot there on that guy, especially because if he does grapple, that'll look like a minus 500 potentially come Saturday. You had something you wanted to add there, Narco?
No. I was just going to say those calf kicks, you got to really be, I think it's going to be a major weapon in this fight.
It's a good call. Definitely a good call. All right, everybody, we're getting down to the good stuff. 220 live viewers. Thank you all for hanging out with us and rocking with us here for 287. Big pay-per-view card this week. Big one coming up next. Another changing of the guard style fight. Narco Rob Font comes back to take on Adrian Yanez. And I somehow have fucked these numbers up because there's no way you got a plus 155 and a minus 375. The numbers as they stand on Superbook Sports right now is Adrian Yanez minus 175, plus 155 for Rob Font. And I've been talking about it all year, Narco. 2023 is the changing of the guard. I've said it all year, and so far it's come to fruition. These older fighters that are on the verge, that are on the edge, they're getting phased out. These young kids that are hungry, that are skilled, that are talented, they're taking over these top spots, whether it be the top 10, the top 5, the title. They're just coming in and winning. They're doing their damn job this year. And I think this is another spot where that more than likely happens. The one thing I want to say is that Rob Font's boxing is like second to none in this division. The dude is incredible. I do not want to in any way talk down or look past or belittle Rob Font because he is amazing. And the fact that he's able to hang in there and show the heart and the toughness that he has in his last couple fights against Chito, against Aldo, like the guy has got heart for days. The problem is he just can't back people up. When you get into a boxing exchange and you both land and you go flying across the cage and your opponent comes in asking for more, like that's just a bad strategy. He has to be able to outvolume his opponents. It's minutes versus moments. And lately, it seems like the judges are rewarding the moments. You know, Adrian Yanez can come in here and steal around with one or two big shots, and that right hand of his is nasty. But this is a legendary step up in competition, Narco. We all know about Adrian Yanez. We all know how exciting this kid is. He's got a great story. He's got a great personality. I'm rooting my ass off for Adrian Yanez. Beat the brakes off Tony Kelly in his last fight. Everybody loved seeing that. But he won a split decision against Davey Grant. My guy. Love Davey Grant. And he beat Randy Costa, who's a known gasser. And he beat Tony Kelly, who's been cut from the organization. Like, his resume in hindsight is not great. And now he's taking on a guy in Rob Font who's been in the contender circle fighting only killers for quite some time. Sergio Pettis, Ricky Simone, Marlon Moraes, Cody Garbrandt, Jose Aldo, Marlon Vera. Like, Font is incredible. And he has never been KO'd. He's been submitted once. He's a decision machine. I don't know, man. Giannis is on record saying he wants to be the guy. He thinks he's got the goods to be the first one to ever put him down. I don't know if I can count Rob Font out just yet. This is another one where I think I'm going to sit back and I'm going to take notes. I'm going to pick Adrian Yanez to go ahead and change the guard here. I'm going to pick him to get the win and step into the contender circle. I think this line is maybe a little bit too disrespectful of Rob Font's skill set. What about you, Narco?
You want to hear a recipe for disaster, Clint? Rob Font been knocked down 5 times in his last 2 fights.
Ooh.
Okay. You want to hear the other recipe of disaster is Adrian Yanez, 6 knockdowns in 7 fights, I believe, or 6 fights in the UFC. That's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. I think this guy's chin is pretty much done. He's been in way too many wars. He's getting hurt, wobbled, dropped. I mean, he is getting like absolutely killed in these fights, in his last 2 fights against Aldo and Marlon Vera. Now, Aldo really hasn't dropped anybody for years, man. But guess what? He dropped Font twice in that fight.
That's true.
I'm telling you, this is a recipe for disaster for Rob Font, and I think he's going to get knocked out here. Is he going to land some shots? Yeah, but Rob Font, to me, just doesn't have enough power to make Adrian Yanez stay away. And just as good as Rob Font's boxing is, Adrian Yanez is just as good, if not better, in my opinion. So, I mean, Adrian Yanez gets hit, so does Rob Font, but the counters from Yanez are going to be quicker. He's the younger guy. He's the more durable guy at this point in their career. Everything favors Adrian Yanez at this point, and we're not going to see grappling, in my opinion, in this fight. So, I think Adrian Yanez is set up for a KO here, man. I'm, you know, I love Rob Font. I love his heart. I love his, the toughness. But man, you can't take some of those beatings that he's been taking the last 2 fights. And when you look, right, that the one key thing that sticks out for me, and it's like a sore thumb, right? He's never been knocked down in his UFC career. And now you're telling me he's going to get knocked down 5 times in 2 fights? That's a big red flag, Clint. And again, on the opposite side, man, I mean, Adrian Yanez, 6 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights. The guy has a lot of power in his hands, and he puts those combinations together. So I'm expecting a KO, to be honest, and I like the Yanez side.
Okay. All right. Gonna be the first man to go ahead and get it done here. I like it, Narco. What are we getting on a number? What's the knockout right now for Yanez? Do you know?
I think it's in the 170 range. I don't think it's that good. I might like add it to like a round prop because I think it's gonna come a little bit later. But yeah, I don't want to give all my Lambo plays here, but I see a knockout.
I mean, so Narco, if the people wanted Lambo plays, where would they go for that?
My YouTube channel, Narco Cop MMA, every Friday with Timothy Troiano. And I mean, if you guys are not honestly watching it, and it's not just because it's my YouTube channel, we'll take that out of the way. And you know, Clint, every week we hit like 4 or 5 of these, like big plus money. It's like plus 1,600, plus 2,000, plus 800 week after week after week. This year has been incredible.
It's absolute insanity, folks. Make sure you check it out, seriously, because it's those ones where, you know, I'll call like maybe 2 or 3 on a fight week and sprinkle them, and I hit one every 2-3 weeks or so it ends up okay. No. Narco and Tim do this week in and week out, and they're hitting 3 or 4 of them every single UFC card. It's redonkulous what they're capable of, so make sure you check out that show. You're not going to want to miss it, especially on a big-ass pay-per-view like this one. Co-main event time. You've got Gilbert Burns taking on Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal. I hope he retires so I can quit wondering which one I'm supposed to say, Narco, because I still don't know. As always, I am the captain of the Burns train. I've been shooting this man's, I've been screaming this man's name from the mountaintops for years now. You know, when Gilbert Burns first moved up in weight class, Narco, I was the guy. I made the gif of him with his face on the train tracks. Like, I made so much money with him coming up and just destroying people. Everyone expecting after he got knocked out by Dan Hooker for him to be a bum up a weight class. I made piles on Gilbert Burns. He worries me at the top end of the weight class, though. But then he goes out there and has a 15-minute slobber knocker and pushes Khamzat Chimaev further than anybody ever expected, gets dropped, fights his way back into it. It's like, oh my God, like even I doubted my man in that fight, and he came through. Gilbert Burns is unreal right now. He wants a second shot at the title. He's 36 years old, so he's starting to get up there. It really looks like he's better than ever right now. And he also has osmosis absorbed the wrestling of Kamaru Usman to go with his literally world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu skill set. This guy is deadly everywhere the fight goes. And he's who, frankly, I've never been fond of. Masvidal is a guy who I think is fun. I think is entertaining, but I've come on this show and time again just absolutely slandered him because I feel like he's just a Diaz bro on steroids, Narco. Like, he's got power. He doesn't play the game. He can't wrestle. He's getting old now. Like, he does wear damage really, really well. He's super durable, and you can never see a scratch on his face. So he looks like he's always, winning fights when people start getting busted up and bloody and stuff, because the man simply doesn't bleed. But if he can't land that big bomb on you, it's very rare that he's actually going to win the fight. Very skilled striker, very tough dude. He doesn't play the game enough for me. But I'm still really struggling with 5-1 on Gilbert Burns. Gilbert got dropped in round 1 against Khamzat. And now we can debate who hits harder, Khamzat or Masvidal. We can have that discussion. I don't like how often Burns gets hurt in his fights. That said, I think he's more than capable of taking Masvidal down almost whenever he wants to. And Colby got Masvidal down on repeat and was able to transition to the back and threaten rear naked chokes. Now, Colby can't choke anybody, so there was never any real threat there. But if Burns gets in that position, this fight is over. If Gilbert Burns gets the back of Masvidal, I'm expecting a tap and in a hurry. I bet the under here, Narco. I bet violence. I got under 2.5 at -120. I think one of these guys is sleeping within the first 4 minutes because Masvidal really has to come out here, and the only way he wins this fight, in my opinion, is going to be a finish. I don't think he can win a 15-minute kickboxing match. I don't think he can out-wrestle Burns. So I feel like it's Burns by finisher decision, and frankly, like I said, if he's getting those takedowns, I think he finishes. I also think Masvidal is getting old. We've seen him get cracked. Usman knocked him out clean. Gilbert almost nuked Usman. Like, this guy's got nukes in his hands. He can win by knockout too. Give me all the violence. I'm going to pick Gilbert Burns, but I'm not picking a side. Just somebody go to sleep. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't mind your play. I don't have a play yet, but I'm looking at violence as well. I think the thing that I saw that I really liked from Gilbert Burns is the last fight. He just right away went to the grappling. He knew what he had to do. He didn't fuck around. He's like, I'm going to get this fight to the ground and I'm going to sub this guy. And it's exactly what he did. He didn't even mess around at all with Neil Magny. Took him down, subbed him. So easy, right? I honestly think he might do the same thing here. He's probably going to take Masvidal down. And it's probably going to...
Is it me? Is it Narco? Did we lose Narco? Somebody in the chat tell me. I can see myself, so I think it's Narco's internet again, unfortunately.
I can see myself, but
there he is.
Something's going on here.
I can hear you. All right, he's back. Go ahead. Finish up. We got one more fight. We can get through this.
Can you see me?
Yeah. You froze for a minute, and now you're a little fuzzy, but it's coming back. It's coming back.
Sorry. I don't know what's going on with the internet today. It's usually on point, but yeah, I'm going to keep it short. Like, why stand? Why bang with this guy? But I will say the striking is going to be kind of close. Like, Gilbert Burns can strike, and he has a ton of power. So I think he can put out Masvidal even on the feet. That's why I like the under here. Kind of similar to what you're saying. I haven't played it. but either he chokes him out or one of them goes to sleep on the feet. Most likely Masvidal, because I think this is his last fight on his contract. So, and I heard something about retiring. So, I mean, there you go. He's got the game bred. He's got the game bred boxing going and all that other nonsense. So he's making the money elsewhere.
Completely agree with you. And I know I get shit for that. Somebody on the internet was very upset with me for talking about the R word with Masvidal. Because if you listen to the interview, he doesn't actually say he's going to retire. But for me, you guys know how I feel. If it's even in the back of your brain, if you're like, oh, I'm going to win this fight, 1000%, I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to knock this guy's out. I'm going to go get the title. I'm going to be the champion. But if I lose, I'm going to retire. That but is all I need. Like, if you say, but if I lose, I'm going to retire, it's like, that's it. You're already thinking next step. You're already thinking what comes after. And man, he's out there El Chapoing his way around Florida with the big ass house and the t-shirts. And he's got game bred boxing like you talked about. The dude's set. Like, I really do think he can just walk away from this. And the only thing that's going to bring him back is a fight for the title or a fight against Colby. Like, I think if Burns beats him, it's pretty much wraps. And like you said, I think both guys are more than capable of finishing. The chin for Burns is questionable. The power for both guys is there. You got the submission wrestling upside for Burns. Give me an under. Violence all day. All right, everybody. We still got over 200 live viewers, and it's time to talk about the main event. The coolest thing about this main event, Narco, is that both Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira have smashed the like button on this video. Coming in. No, it's seriously, though. This is an awesome fight. These guys have now fought each other. This is going to be the fourth time, I believe, that they've shared a combat ring of some sort together. And Izzy's back is against the wall, man. He's had every opportunity to beat this guy, and he just cannot seem to do it. It's paper, rock, scissors in MMA sometimes, and sometimes there's a guy that's just got your number. Pereira seems to be that guy for Adesanya. And the scariest thing about Pereira is because he's training with, Captain Brazil himself, he's getting better. He got into MMA so late. He's 35 years old. His grappling is still improving. He's still rounding out as a mixed martial artist. And it's scary that Glover Teixeira is turning this man into an absolute killer. Now, Adesanya, there's a lot of promotional activity out there about him really working on his wrestling and stuff like that. Man, I don't know what to think of that. I don't know that Adesanya is going to suddenly come out and go full Marvin Vettori here and try and take this guy down to get a win. He had Pereira hurt badly at the beginning. I think it was round 1 of their last fight. He had Pereira hurt really badly and was winning 90% of that fight. Now, I've always said it's disrespectful to make the champion the underdog, Narco. I truly believe that. We saw it with Leon Edwards just a couple weeks ago. The champ shouldn't be at plus odds. And even when you look at that fight, Usman won 90% of it. You run it back and the champion defends. It's so hard for a champion to get their belt back. It's so hard for somebody who gets figured out to then retool their game, tweak it, come back and beat the guy that just took it from them. The one big difference for me here in this fight is that Israel Adesanya is still the younger of the two fighters. Pereira's the guy that's older. Pereira's the guy with the gas tank concerns. Izzy's the guy that's younger. Izzy's the guy that theoretically still should be improving at a more rapid rate. I don't want to lay chalk on Israel Adesanya, but I'm extremely tempted. The lower this line dips, everyone is gobbling up Alex Pereira. If he doesn't land that big shot in round 5, Izzy wins by decision, clear as day in that fight. I think Israel Adesanya can make the adjustments he needs to come get this win on Saturday. I actually think the style bender is going to get his belt back, Narco.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had a bet on Adesanya last fight, and it kind of sucked, right? I think that's twice it's happened to me. Usman 1, Adesanya 2, back-to-back kind of, and it stung. And you know what I did the last fight against Edwards versus Usman? I didn't play anything because I kind of feel the same vibe here, man. It's like we see this over and over again where the guy that dominated but lost comes back in a rematch and somehow loses again. And the thing that you could take away is he needs to survive for 5 rounds against Pereira. And you need to, when I say survive, I mean survive. Like, this guy's freaking dangerous from minute 1 to minute like 25, right? You got to really survive with this guy. His knees, we saw his knees really bothering Israel Adesanya as this fight went on. And when he was landing those in the clinch, Adesanya was hurting to the body. And then his shots, like his punches are so damn powerful. I mean, he has massive fucking brick hands. And the other thing we saw is Adesanya hurt him early, right? Sam almost get him out of there basically. And I don't know what to think here, man. I know the skilled fighter, the overall skilled fighter here is Adesanya, but the equalizer is on Pereira's side, and it's that power, man. And he has 25 minutes to land that big shot. It's not 15, it's 25, and that's what I'm afraid of. And at the end of the day, I might just play fight doesn't go. It's minus 122. It's 2 big guys. It's 2 guys that hurt each other in their last fight. And I don't think there's going to be much grappling success. I know, Adesanya had a little bit of success last time, but the only thing that's going to happen is Pereira improving his takedown defense. And I don't think it's bad to begin with. So 25 minutes of standing. Can we see a knockout? Yes. We've seen both guys hurt. We see a knockout last time. It's minus 122 on FanDuel. I don't know. I think that's the route I might take.
I don't mind it. I think Israel Adesanya may sit down a little bit more on his punches this fight. We've seen he's more of a point striker, right? But like we talked about, he clipped this guy. He hurt him. He just didn't follow up on it and finish. And we know Pereira is going to be looking for that bomb. No 2 fights are alike, man. This one probably should have hit the cards last time. I'm kind of with you. It might go under. Violence might not be such a bad look here. Both these guys looking to emphatically end this rivalry and finish it off. I could see an under taking place. I don't mind that look at all, Narco.
Yeah, fight doesn't go 122. I don't know, man. I think that's a better look than trying to choose a side here, just in the sense that we saw this fight and it honestly can go either way.
Yeah. These guys are both very talented, very skilled, obviously very evenly matched. I'm going to pick Israel Adesanya. At this point, I have no bet on the main event. I don't mind that look on violence. I think that's a pretty good look. For everybody wanting to know, as of right now, I've got Holland inside the distance at plus 150. I've got Lupita Godinez KO at 8-1, which I think I'm going to probably find a way to her money line. I want to make sure Cynthia makes it to the fight, so I'm not just getting a refund from my bookie once the fight gets canceled. But I may either parlay or just chalk up on Lupita Godinez money line because I think she runs away with this one. And then I've got the under 2.5 in Burns Masvidal. That's all I got so far as bets goes, but you guys know I'll add more throughout the week, more than likely. Narco, thank you so much for joining me to break down this card today. I appreciate you and, of course, everybody who tuned in. Without you guys supporting us, showing up for these shows week in and week out, we wouldn't be doing it. There'd be no reason to. Narco, I know we already talked about it, but if you want to go ahead and shout something out, if you have any sponsors, if you want to let the people know where to find you again, now's your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Clint. I had a blast. 2 hours. We went through this whole card.
Went quick, didn't it?
Yeah, long-winded a little bit on some of these fights, but I like to break them down as I see them. So, yeah, Narco Cop on Twitter, Narco Cop MMA, my YouTube channel. Every Friday, we go live at 9 p.m. Eastern with the Lambeau Place podcast, me and Timothy Troiano. Also, I do an article for Stochastic every week for every UFC fight card. And I also have a Best Bets video on the Odd Shopper channel. So, yeah, you can find me there as well every Friday for the Best Bets.
I love it. All right, everybody, one more time, please hit the like button for me on your way out. And, hey, Good luck on all your gambling action out there, everybody. Make sure you are never overextending, never gamble with more than you can afford to lose. Bankroll management, extremely important for longevity here in this game. But I wish you the best of luck. We'll be back later on in the week. I've got a whole host of shows for you. The Total Takedown on Thursday, the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show on Friday, and of course, it is Fight Exchange week. We're going to go ahead and break this thing down prediction strike style a little bit later on in the week on my personal YouTube channel. And then, of course, we will have the Sharp Action Report with my guy Andrew from Superbook, letting us know where the sharp action is across the counter on Friday. Thank you guys. Love you all very much for the support. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. Let's roll.